Hello you guys, welcome back to the channel. If you are returning, hi, thanks for clicking on another video and sticking with me. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Erin, and today we're going to be getting into some of my favorite books for 2021. So this year I had a goal to read a certain number of books and also to just get back into reading because I've been in a reading slump for the past couple years, and so I had this goal to just read more this year, and I definitely got back into the groove. Once you get into the habit of, or we're always a reader, it's kind of hard once you stop reading for a long period of time, but I've seemed to have gotten right back into the groove and have read quite a few books this year. And so I wanted to do at the end of the year sort of awards for all of the best things that I tried this year, or saw, or etc, etc. So here on my channel I like to talk about makeup, movies, and books, and so these are my book awards here, and I have them separated into separate categories. And I'm also going to be doing best movies and best makeup for 2021 as well, so those videos are going to be coming soon. Some of them will be separated into different categories, but for this one in particular I'm just talking about all the different categories of books. And I might do a separate video for horror though, because I read a lot of horror. That was the most genre I read this year, so I had a lot of good ones that I couldn't include on this list, but I might do a separate video of just horror books for 2021. But anyways, so I have quite a few books. I'm not going to go into a synopsis or long detail about all of them because number one, I don't want this video to be too long, and there's a lot of books on this list. I read quite a few books, and I couldn't obviously include every great thing I read this year, so I tried to pick and narrow down my favorites for each genre, and so you will see that here on my list when I get into it. And also, this is a great way to recommend books, but again, I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm not going to just go into too much detail about each one. But yeah, I will definitely say check out these books if any of them seem interesting to you. Definitely check them out. So if you enjoy videos like this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this, and without further talking, let's hop into the best books for 2021. So I separated all of my favorite books into different categories. Now, disclaimer, some of these books could fit into different or multiple categories, so I just basically put it into the category I thought fit well, or if I went on Goodreads, the category that was first, or the main. Let's go with the category that I didn't read too much out of at all this year, and that's nonfiction. The only one I really read was this one, and I did enjoy it. So this is The Awesome Egyptians. This is part of the Horrible Histories little series. I only own this one, and it was pretty good. Terry Deary and Peter Hepplewhite are the authors here, and it's just got a bunch of like cool facts about Egyptian history, ancient Egyptians and mummies and all that kind of stuff. So I did enjoy this, and that's the only one I really have for that category. Maybe I shouldn't have even included that category, but all right. Another category I didn't read a whole lot from was historical fiction. I did include this one of Sword and Shadow by A.L. Swords. I enjoyed this one. I'll pop a picture up because I read it on the Kindle app. It's basically about this girl or young woman who is basically in a lower caste, or what would you call it? Like, yeah, like socially she's like on the bottoms, and she's basically working to kind of fight against the system, fight against everything that's going on with her. And she's kind of gotten into, she doesn't have the best well, she doesn't really have any family, but she has like her mentor, I guess you would call it, who's basically a thief, and it's just a lot that goes into it. It was a really good book. I enjoyed it a lot, and it's pretty much the only historical fiction. There's also some romance in it, so I guess you could maybe call this historical romance as well. But yeah, it was a good one. For best thriller this year, and I did read a couple thrillers, but some of the ones that I read I did not want to include on this because I didn't love them necessarily. But the one thriller that I absolutely adored this year was The Push by Ashley Adrian, and this one was really good. I've talked about this one in another video, so I won't go into too much detail, but basically this is like a domestic thriller about a woman who has this daughter with her husband, and she really believes that her daughter, there's something wrong with her. Her daughter is evil, or her daughter is doing things on purpose that are malicious, but her husband really is not believing her. No one really believes her, and pretty much she's gaslighted the whole book. Spoiler. But yeah, so it's basically, the question is she, her daughter, really evil, or is it all in her imagination? Is it all, you know, something going on with her? And so it's a really good book. I really would recommend it. It was one of my favorites from the year for sure. All right, let's get into the best mysteries for this year. I do enjoy a good mystery novel or book. It's one of my favorites. And I read two this year that I thought were really, really good. And again, some of these other books that are on the list might also go into hit mystery, but here's the ones that were kind of clearly mystery. The Sundown Motel was the first one I want to mention, and I actually do own that one, so I'll show it. Some of these I have hard copies of. So I got this in a book of the month box, and this one was really good. It's by Simone St. James. It's also a horror novel, so there is a lot of horror in it as well. And so this one could be considered a horror novel as well, but I included it in mystery. But basically we're following this young woman whose aunt went missing several years in the 80s. She went missing and no one knows what happened to her, and she was working at this motel that is haunted. And so the young woman, we goes to this hotel to kind of investigate, and we're following two different timelines as well in this book. So you're switching back from the 1982 perspective and then up to the 2017 perspective, back and forth, and you're following both of these, the aunt when she was younger, and then the young woman, the young lady, teenage, I think she's like 1920, and we're following her as well as she wants to investigate what happened to her aunt. It's really good. I like the mystery aspect of it, so it was quite entertaining. There's like some killings going on in here as well, and then there's also the ghost story as well, and then there's also the mystery of what happened to the aunt. So there's a lot going on, and it does have some pretty scary points as well, so I would definitely recommend this one. And then the other one I have is, all right, you guys, I don't know where the hard copy is. I do own this book, but the other mystery book I really enjoyed was The Firekeeper's Daughter. This one was really good. We're following a girl that is Native, and gets involved with this mystery on in her tribe or in her area after the something tragic happens. So that was really, really good as well. I do own it. I don't know where it is, which is so strange because it was on my shelf and I haven't moved it off my shelf, but it's not there. So right, let's go into the best romance, and I did read quite a bit of romance this year, but not all of them were hits. Some of them were, you know, okay or good, but not necessarily my favorites for the year. But I did have quite a few that I did like, and I'll talk about these two in particular, and then the rest of them I put into a different category because, and we'll get to it. So for the best romances, I put Christopher's Quiet Bride by Lynn Donovan. I really enjoy a historical romance. It's one of my favorite genres or subgenres of all time. I just really enjoy it, although everything in history is not great. I do just like kind of, you know, we don't know really what's going, or not that we don't know what's going on, but like times are tougher type of thing, and the romance blooms out of it type of story. So historical romance are definitely right up my alley, and this one was really good. I do also really enjoy A Mail Order Bride. I know I do enjoy that kind of subgenre of books as well, and this one is that. And so this man sends off for a mail order bride, and it's an arranged marriage obviously, and what he doesn't know is that his bride is very, very quiet and shy, and so, or not even necessarily shy, but she's very, very like doesn't talk a lot. And so they meet together, and they're not necessarily supposed to be matched together. There's a mismatch with the matchmaker, and so they get together and they're kind of like the opposites of each other, and he's just wondering like, why is she so quiet? Is this going to work out? And the romance blooms from there. I really enjoyed this one. It's a very simple story, but sometimes simple is the best way to go. The other one I want to mention is Eyes of Silver, Eyes of Gold by Ellen O'Connell. This one I also really enjoyed, and it was just, again, it's a simple romance story like the other one I mentioned, and it is also historical romance, so that should show you those are my best romances of the year, both historical. All right, you guys, romances. Let's move on to the best sci-fi for this year. And I actually read quite a bit of sci-fi this year. I wanted to read more of it because I don't read that much like sci-fi that you would traditionally think of sci-fi, but then I didn't realize, or it didn't come to mind that dystopian novels are also sci-fi. So I do really like sci-fi, and I'm getting into more of the classic sci-fi as well, and just sci-fi in general. And I do have 3 picks for this year, so that's really good. The first one is Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. I don't own this one. I got it from the library and read it, and I really did enjoy it. It was a lot of interesting concepts in this one, with, you know, it's basically set in the future where Um, everything has gone insane, crazy. There's no real order in the world. Everyone has pretty much gone off the hinges because of different factors. And this young girl, she lives in this community that's basically walled off, and they're trying to protect each other. They live all walled off together because if you go outside, you're likely to get killed or raped or anything because of the disorder in the world. And we basically see the downfall of this community throughout the book and the different things that happen that come into this community. And we also follow her family members as they all take different paths. It's such a good one. And she also has all of these interesting ideas about religion and stuff like that. So it was really interesting, very strange, but in a good way. And so that's why it was one of my best for the year. The other one was The Humans by Matt Haig. I really enjoyed this one. Again, I checked this one out from the library. I heard about this author that he was, he had some really great books, so I picked up The Humans. This one was not only a really good sci-fi book, but also a very funny one. I almost could say this is a comedic book as well. We're basically following this human as he comes to Earth, and he basically, this man on Earth has found out this mathematical computation or answer or whatever, figured out this equation. I don't even know what it is. And humans are not ready for it, basically. So this alien comes to Earth to kind of stop this man, kill him, impersonate him to see who else has found out about this math equation and take them out as well. So he's impersonating this man and his family. And it's very interesting because this alien doesn't really know too much about how to be human. So we're following him as he learns what it means to really be human and to have a family. It's very good. Really, really recommend it. One of my favorites from this year for sure. And then the other one that I actually just finished, so spoiler for my December wrap up, Dune by Frank Herbert. I have seen quite a few reviews on this after I finished reading it, and it seems like a lot of people don't absolutely love this one. And I have to say, I'm not like completely enamored with it either, but I really did enjoy this one. And that might be because I read majority of it in an audiobook, but I liked the story. I liked where it went. There were things about it that I thought could be different, but this is definitely more of like a classic sci-fi and kind of sets the foundation for a lot of other sci-fi books and novels and concepts. So I definitely see how it could be a bit outdated, but I did enjoy it. So I put it in this for best of the year. And the last one is Winter, what was it called? Winter World. That one was good as well. I won't go into too much detail about that one. I did talk about that one in another video as well. I really enjoyed that one as well. Basically, we're in the future and the earth is frozen. Alright, for best mid-grade books, I read a couple, but this one is the one that I really enjoyed. Monster Street, The Boy Who Cried Werewolf by J.H. Reynolds. Basically, we're following this young kid as he goes to visit his grandparents that he doesn't really know about. His father has died and he doesn't really know why. And we find out it's kind of a mystery going on in this as well. And there's something in the forest that is not good. So it's really good. I kind of guessed what was going to be the ending before it even came. And I basically read this in like a day. Of course, it's a mid-grade book. It was very easy, but I did really enjoy it. It definitely reminded me of like Goosebumps, which I loved as a kid. It was my favorite series. So, all right, let's go into the best fantasy romance for 2021, and that's why I separated this one from romance, because I read quite a few fantasy romances this year. So I was like, let me separate that into a different category because there's a couple I want to recommend or talk about. The first one, The Faceless Mage by Kenley Davidson, is a really good one. We're following this girl who's kind of like the protector of the princess of this kingdom and this other kingdom that is kind of threatening the kingdom that this girl lives in, wants their princess to come and marry the prince. And so this girl goes undercover because she has an ability to change herself to look like someone else. She goes and impersonates the princess and to this other kingdom, and she's trying to figure out the real deal, if they should actually send their princess there, and if the people are just lying. And so while she's there, she actually encounters a bodyguard who looks over her, who they don't really know what the deal is with him, and he's very, very scary. There's lots of rumors about him, but she comes to find out that there's something else going on here. So this one was a really good one. I enjoyed it. It was a nice little romance, and there was some good fantasy elements. Right, another fantasy romance I enjoyed this year was The Sharpen Axe by Jill M. Bean. Hopefully I'm saying that name right. This one was really good as well. I like the concept of it. Basically, every year a certain amount of girls goes to the palace to be a potential to wed this prince, but the only thing is that this prince has a curse. There's a curse on the whole kingdom, and if the girl is not his like true love or the true person that he's supposed to marry, then when he chooses her, basically he has to choose out of like a group of girls. The one he chooses or falls in love with, if it's true love, once she takes this test, she'll be the curse will be lifted. But if she's not the true princess or the true love or whatever, she will be killed on the spot and basically disintegrated. And so really interesting concept. And the main character, the girl we're following, she's like not nobility, she's just like a regular girl, and she just wants to stay and support her family, but she ends up getting chosen, and she just doesn't really even want to be there. So she basically is like doing her own thing, and she doesn't care about the selection or anything. The next one I really liked was The Moonfire Bride by Sylvia Mercedes. This one was also good. It's basically like fae, human romance type of thing. So if you're interested in those type of stories, alright, let's go into some YA. And again, a lot of these could go into different categories, but the one that is very much YA that I enjoyed this year was Grown. I got this from the library. It's basically almost a fiction retelling, or very much inspired by kind of like R. Kelly and all of his escapades and all of his, you know, terrible things that he's done. And we're basically following this young girl who wants to be a singer really bad. She wants to be famous really bad, but she ends up meeting with this guy who's a lot older, who basically isolates her, promises her all these things, but in reality all he wants to do is have this sick, twisted romance and abuse towards this young girl, and she definitely like falls into it. It's very much like some grooming going on, so some triggers for this one, but I think it was a really interesting topic for the YA genre, and also something that I think could be talked about even more, because I think that it's a tough topic, but it's something that definitely needs to be discussed as well. And I really enjoyed it. I thought the author did a really good job, and I think that was her debut novel. I think that was her first novel that she wrote, so I really enjoyed that one. Another one I enjoyed was The Heir and the Spare. This one I also I read this one on Kindle, actually. I didn't get it from the library. That one was really good. It was basically following these two girls. One of the princesses is like really evil, the other one is nice, but one of them is basically going to be the heir, and the other one is just like a whatever, you know. And the heir is going to be getting married to this prince, and there's some things going on that we don't want. Basically her sister is like, great, let her get married and leave because she's so terrible, but then she finds out the prince that she thought was also terrible is not that bad, and now she wants to kind of warn him that her sister is kind of a cuckoo. That's basically that one. And the last one the last one that I read this year for YA that I really enjoyed was The Maze Runner by James Dashner. This one was really good. I've never seen the movies for this, but I wanted to read these books, and my younger sister had read them, and she recommended that I read them as well. And so I got the first book, and I already had the first book actually, but I'd never read it, and I purchased the other two books, and I read the whole series. So I guess I could put the whole series here, but this one was definitely probably my favorite. It was the first one. Really good. It's a dystopian novel. You probably have already heard of this one. It's quite popular. It has a movie, and so this one was one of the best ones for YA this year. You could also put this in the sci-fi category because it's a dystopian novel as well, and there's some sci-fi elements. Let's get to the last two categories, which are going to be the bigger ones. Best fantasy books. I did read quite a few fantasy, and a lot of them actually ended up being fantasy romance, but there's two I want to mention for this year. The first one is A Little Hatred by Joe Abercrombie. Wow, this was such a good book. Joe Abercrombie definitely, you know, it surprised me how good this book was, and we're following a couple different viewpoints in this book. It's set in a time where it's like almost like industrial revolution, but there's also like some magic still going on. I really enjoyed this book. I can't wait to read the second one. I bought it a few months ago and I have it on my shelf. I'm reading it next year. But yeah, really, really good one. I recommend, and I'm interested to read more from Joe Abercrombie. So yeah, but we're basically following a lot of different characters as they are fighting for different things. There's a lot of strangeness going on. It's really, really good. But yeah, that one was really good. And the other one I actually just finished, so another spoiler for December, Wolves of Kala by Stephen King. This is the 5th book in the Dark Tower series. This one is definitely fantasy, almost like dystopian as well in a way, a bit of horror in there as well. And basically we're following Roland and his quartet, so this is the 4th book, who are all gunslingers, and they're coming upon this town that is being basically terrorized every generation, like every 20 something years, by these wolves who are not like physical wolves, but they're basically like they have these wolf masks, and the wolves come and take a certain amount of children from these people and take them away, and then they bring them back, and the kids are ruined or ruined, as they say in the book. But they're basically, they kind of like suck all of the brain power out of these kids. It was very interesting. I enjoyed this kind of like side quest on their quest to the tower, because they're not really traveling to the tower too much in this book. They're really, it's like almost like a side quest for 900 pages. But it was really good. I really enjoyed it. We got some different hints of things that are going to be coming in other books. So yeah, Stephen King never disappoints me, and you will see him again in my last category. Y'all, the last category is best horror, and this one, actually, I had a long list of this. I had to whittle it down, so that's why I might do a separate video of the best horror from the whole year, because I had several other books that I really wanted to put on here that I really enjoyed, but I couldn't put that many books on the list. So let's just get into it. I have a couple that I just really enjoyed this year, and the first one I want to mention is The Hillbound Heart by Clive Barker. I read this one last month, and I really enjoyed it. I think that it's a great little novella. I'm excited that I'm getting to read more of Clive Barker next year, because that's one of my goals, is to read from more authors that I've started this year. This is the first book I've read by him, and I really enjoyed it. This is the basis, or the inspiration, not inspiration, this is the basis for the movie Hellraiser, and there are some differences between the movie and the book, but basically we're following this man and his wife as they move into this house, and we're also following this girl named Kirsty as well, and this man Frank as well, which is the brother of the guy that moves into the house with his wife. And he has this box. He opens it up because he wants to experience more pleasures, and out come these Cenobites, who come and give him what they consider to be pleasure, which is actually pain and torture. So it's a really good book. We're following these people and all the terrible things that happen. The other one I really liked, and I finished in December, so another spoiler, Near the Bone by Christina Henry. I really enjoyed this book. This was such a good horror novel, and it really surprised me because I had this sitting on my shelf for a while. It's a 2021 release, and you know, I saw that it was on the Goodreads award category for one of the books, and I was like, I own that book, but I've never read it. So I picked it up for December because I figured it would be nice to have like a snowy horror book for December, and wow, this was so good. It's got like some elements of like, what is the word I'm looking for? Not Bigfoot, like a Sasquatch? I don't know, but like, no, it's not Sasquatch either. It's basically, there's a creature in the forest. I don't know what the word I'm trying to think of. There's a creature in the forest, and we're following this woman named Maddie, who's married to this man named William, who is very abusive to her. So there's like some triggers for this one as well. And there's something appears in the forest that is killing animals and doing all these weird things, but not even killing them for food, killing them in like very sadistic ways. And so she has to not only have the horror at home with William, and there's a mystery with that as well, why he's got her locked up in this forest with no one else around, and then there's also the mystery of the creature in the forest. And so the events sort of pop off when she discovers that there's something in the forest that is killing animals. And also these group of researchers come, and they are very suspicious. They're researching the animal in the forest, but they're also very suspicious of Maddie and William's relationship and everything that happens to her, as they see that she's in this abusive marriage. So really good book, really interesting. I was blown away with this. That synopsis I just gave you guys was probably terrible, but this was so good. I probably should have just read the back of the book. That would have probably given you a better synopsis with less spoilers. Anyways, I love that one. Another one was The Long Walk by Stephen King. I read quite a few Stephen King this year, and although I loved all of them, I have to say The Long Walk was probably my favorite. It's basically like a dystopian horror type of thing, where in the future these boys are participating in this walk where they have to walk non-stop, and if you stop you get killed, basically. So that's basically the whole story, and it just it was so good. It was so like such a strange concept, but very good at the same time. I don't know how Stephen King comes up with these things, but very, very good. All right, and my last one for best horror is going to be Nosferatu by Joe Hill. If you watched my last video for my November wrap-up, you probably would have saw this coming. This was so good. Oh my goodness. I absolutely love this book. We're following basically two main characters, one evil, one good, and they both have this special ability to go to this, like, their own, like, personal world or dimension almost, and it's just so good. So this lady is trying to escape this man, Charles Manx, and his sadistic other world where he takes children, called Christmas Land. Joe Hill, I got my eye on Joe Hill now. I'm definitely going to be reading some more Joe Hill next year, because this one definitely blew me away and definitely deserves to be on my best horror for 2021. So yeah, you guys, that's my list here. Hopefully you got something out of it, and possibly you got some recommendations that you'll want to see. Definitely check out some of these. They're really, really good for sure. Yeah, all of these I would recommend, and all of these either got 4 to 5 stars from me from the year. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe down below, and I will see you in the next video very, very soon. Stay safe,